I think UFO disclosure, it doesn't matter whose it is. They've changed the laws of physics as we know them, and that technology is there. And if that technology ever goes from there to commercial use, that will be a theme more powerful than the internet, more powerful than AI, because now we're talking about an entirely different energy source and an entirely different propulsion system. That's a game changer for a lot of different industries.
Hello and welcome to Exchange Traded People. I'm your host, Michael O'Riordan, and today's guest is Matt Tuttle, founder and CEO of Tuttle Capital. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
All right, Matt. So I like to kind of dive straight in at the deep end here and get intimate with my guests. So the first question I have for you is, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
So originally, like everybody else, doctor, fireman, or policeman. But a stock market project in 8th grade changed my life.
Okay.
So we were given a hypothetical $10,000 to invest. And, we had to come up with a portfolio and research it and, tell everyone why we picked those stocks. And I got hooked. Ever since then, I've known that it's the markets that I want to be involved in.
Those kind of projects for kids are always super cool, right?
I mean, awesome. Again, it changed my life completely. God knows what I'd be doing if I wasn't exposed to that. Because, my parents weren't in finance. I did grow up in, Marblehead, Mass., same town as Peter Lynch, a lot of fidelity. So maybe I still would have gravitated that way, but who knows?
Yeah, I think they should, like every school program should have sort of projects like that because it's a fun way to get kids interested in investing, right? Really, right?
Well, and it's also, real life stuff. I mean, yeah, I was only in 8th grade. I wasn't doing sophisticated analysis, nowhere near, the stuff I do now, but you got to start somewhere.
True. So that was, how did you from 8th grade to actually, becoming an adult and starting work and getting into the industry? Like, how did you get into the industry and kind of talk us through to the position you're in today?
Yeah. So, again, I knew I wanted to be in finance. So I graduated in 1990 and that was a big recession we were in the midst of. And then I also realized finance is a big thing. What do I want to be? So, I had this opinion that stockbrokers were these great money managers. So, I ended up, starting off cold calling at some brokerage firms and realized pretty quickly it's not about securities analysis. It's about sales. Ran screaming from that. I ended up getting in the back door. So I found a company that handled customer service for mutual funds, but they also handled 1-800-Flowers. So I got a job there over Valentine's week and, every day went in a suit and a tie. Everyone else is in jeans and a t-shirt. Tried to figure out, the right people, tried to, work my ass off. And they ended up offering me a job on the mutual fund side. So I ended up doing that, worked my way up to a point where, 25, 26, I'd gone as far as I could go, really. Ended up quitting, going to business school full time. Then from there, ended up at, a couple brokerage firms, a couple of insurance companies. 2003, set up my own wealth management firm because I was just sick of what, was presented as advice. In 2012, started having other wealth managers ask if I could manage money for them. So I set up a money management firm to do that. In 2015, we got sick of trading on custodial platforms and we switched to doing ETFs and have never looked back.
So on the never looking back thing, so when you do look back now, obviously when you set up your own business, there's, the highs are high and the lows can be kind of very low. What are the kind of lessons you've kind of learned from your career taking so far?
So, I think one big one is melding what you do with who you are. I didn't realize early on, I'm an entrepreneur. I've got to work for myself. I can't have a boss. I'm very creative. I come up with ideas. I want to run with them. I have a no sunk cost mentality, meaning I can spend a ton of time and a ton of money going down a road. If it doesn't work, I'm going to pivot and I'm going to switch. So I've got to work for myself. I think if you want real success, and I hesitate with that word because it's going to mean different things to different people. But let's say you want to be in a position where you're doing very well monetarily. I think that is not easy. If it was, everybody would be doing it, which means you've got to take risks. You've got to surround yourself with the right people, and you've got to work your ass off. I mean, it's not a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday type of thing. And, and if that's not for you, it's not for you, and that's fine. But don't think you're going to achieve a level. I mean, unless you're like born with it, obviously, which I wasn't. I mean, we were at best middle class, probably lower middle class growing up. So you've got to work your ass off, surround yourself with the right people, and you've got to be willing to take risks.
Yeah. So when you say you kind of mentioned you're like an entrepreneur, have you like felt you always had that within you, or it was something kind of?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I had issues working, at the place that I ended up with out of college. I wanted to be compensated based on what I brought to the table, but I wasn't. I wanted opportunities to do more. I saw, what, you guys should be doing this, you should be doing that. No, that's not the way we do things. You got to go through channel. All of it was just so stupid to me. All of the big corporation stuff. I'm like, I can help here, and no one's going to let me help.
I know what you mean. It took me 20 years of a career to kind of for that penny kind of dropping moment, but I definitely hear you. Yeah. Some people are just born with it, right?
I think so. And if you are, you're never going to be happy in a job.
So then you mentioned kind of like setting up Tuttle was because you saw how other firms were giving so-called advice, and you kind of didn't necessarily believe that. So is that where the idea came from, or somebody kind of like mentioned something to you, or how did the Tuttle business arise from?
Yeah, so I was at a couple of brokerage firms, and basically it was not about making money for the client. It was about making money for the broker. And I mean, I could tell you horror stories of the stuff I saw. And and this was during the .com bubble and then eventual burst. I saw a lot of brokers make a lot of money. Not a lot of clients make a lot of money. Went to a couple of different insurance companies thinking it would be different. It wasn't. It just was, the sale was insurance and not securities. And someone gave me a book, Setting Up Your Own RIA. I read it, and within a couple of months, I had my own RIA. Again, being entrepreneurial, that's how I think. It's like, this makes sense. This is the direction I want to go. Yeah, it's a big risk, but I'm not happy doing what I'm doing. And this is what I'm going to do. And I did it.
And when you kind of like sit here now today and look back at, everything you've achieved, has it kind of met your expectations as to what you expected, or you don't know?
So I don't know that I've got expectations, and I don't know that I'm ever going to be at a standpoint where they're met. So, I've got a lot of stuff that I still want to do. It's not about the money at this point. It's, about the impact, and in creating something now. I mean, I'm 57 years old. I've got more behind me than ahead of me. Creating something that hopefully lives on, past you, where, now I read books about JP Morgan, and I'm not saying I'm the next JP Morgan, but I'll read books about historical figures. I'd love, and I mean, who knows if that ever happens, but I'd love for there to be a book about me somewhere, that some guy's on a podcast 50 years from now saying, yeah, I read that biography at Tuttle and it inspired me. So there's still so much more, so this year we're starting up another wealth management firm. We're writing a book. We're probably going to come up with a paid version of my newsletter. We're getting big into, sub-advisory and ETFs and big into crypto sub-advisory. So there's so many different areas and so many different things we still have left to do. So I never like sit back and be like, oh yeah, and occasionally I have like, hey, I'm fat and happy. And I always regret that.
You want a legacy, basically.
Yeah, I want a legacy, but I also, 40 years from now, don't want to look back and be like, man, we could have done more.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the kind of the entrepreneur's curse, right? It's like it's never enough. There's always more. There's always that next idea, right? You're continually chasing the next thing, and yeah,
Yeah, no, I got guys internally like, why are you hiring more people? Why are you going into this business line? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? It's like, sorry, man. That's how I'm wired.
Get on the train or get off it. So you call like your investment approach the heat formula. It's like the antidote to passive investing. How does that kind of show up in your product development process and the products that you guys have?
So we're really making a focus on that this year. So HEAT stands for Hedges, Edges, Asymmetry, and Themes. The idea is you should always be hedged. Bonds aren't a hedge. There are edges in the marketplace that you can take advantage of as a retail investor. You should invest for asymmetry, meaning when you're right, you win a lot. When you're wrong, you lose a little. And then themes. You should be in today and tomorrow's top themes. So we're doing a lot on the thematic side. We just launched their Mago and Mimi. Mago is our Mag 7 put spread ETF, so Mag 7 plus income and unlimited upside. Mimi is kind of what I teach people in a thematic hierarchy. You want to figure out, all right, for every theme, who are the obvious winners? And for just about every theme out there, it's one or more of the Mag 7. But then you also want to look, what are the asymmetrical plays? Who are the companies that could 10x, 15x, 20x? Yeah, they may also go to zero, but they're the asymmetrical, could go up a lot. Because as much as you might like NVIDIA is not going to 20x this year. SanDisk probably already has, if not more than that. IONQ, some of the companies we have, and Mimi could very well. So we're doing that. We're also going to work on some more of the themes, space, robotics, some other things there. And then, what I just did with UFOD, I think UFO disclosure, whether we get disclosure or not, and that's a long story. I'm doing a webinar about it. I think that is the most overlooked theme out there right now. So we're getting into all the themes, and at some point, hopefully it's probably unlikely by the end of this quarter, but maybe we're going to have our tail risk ETF out. Oh no. And that I'm really excited about. It's complicated. The idea is the 99% of the time the market's going up, we want to be close to flat. And then you get a COVID situation and we zoom. But it's complicated. So it's taking me a lot longer than I had wanted to get that out.
Got it. So the UFO one, if I'm not mistaken, is your kind of latest launch?
That is our latest launch. That was last week.
Last week, yeah. Where did the idea for that one come from?
So I have always been fascinated by the whole UFO subject. And I'm not going to go down a massive rabbit hole there unless you want. In 2017, New York Times broke an article that, by the way, the Pentagon has a group watching UFOs that we didn't know about, and they've got stuff on film. And they showed some tapes of fighter pilots chasing after these things that were moving in ways that theoretically we don't have the technology for. And everyone is focused on is it ours? Is it Chinese? Is it Russian? Is it alien? Is it Atlantis? Is it multidimensional? And that's an interesting and important question. I'm an investment guy. I'm sitting there. What's the energy source? What's the propulsion? And it doesn't matter whose it is. What matters is they've changed the laws of physics as we know them, and that technology is there. And if that technology ever goes from there to commercial use, that will be a theme more powerful than the internet, more powerful than AI, because now we're talking about an entirely different energy source and an entirely different propulsion system. That's a game changer for a lot of different industries. And as a thematic investor, that's what got me excited.
Got it. Fair. Got it. Your firm has leaned into ideas that kind of like break the status quo mold, like kind of like a bit contrarian, I suppose. What's your view on brand as a sort of a durable edge in asset management? So are you kind of like, is it something you kind of like deliberately done to differentiate yourself from everybody else, or you've just naturally pivoted there?
I've naturally pivoted there. I want to work on projects that interest me. And if I see, I don't know whether I can swear on this. If I see bull,
Yeah, yeah.
all right. If I see bullshit, I'm going to call it out.
Yeah.
So, we did the inverse Kramer ETF. My timing sucked. Okay. Kramer kicked my ass. But what bothered me is CNBC brings Jim Kramer out every day. Hey, Jim, what do you think? This, and this, and this. And there's no accountability. And the average investor is out there led to believe, oh my God, this guy's an expert. Same thing with Cathie Wood. I mean, I think Cathie Wood's a brilliant marketer. I have nothing against Cathie Wood, but the news would bring her on as she's the next Warren Buffett. There will never, and there are structural reasons why there will never be another Warren Buffett, but that crushed a lot of people. I mean, I would hear from people who said, yeah, I bought ARK, up 150% because I thought I was going to invest with the next Warren Buffett. And those people got crushed. So I see stuff like that and I'm like, I want to call that out. And I'm also not afraid of what people think. I mean, I launched a UFO disclosure ETF. I'm sure there are people out there like, man, that Tuttle guy's friggin' crazy. I am convinced I will be proven right on this, but if I'm not, whatever. And again, like I said at the beginning, look at the portfolio. Really doesn't matter what happens. It's a cool portfolio.
And that kind of mindset, do you think it's like helped the brand of the company?
I don't know. I think, there are some people who might say, well, it's hurt you because, people think you're net. Maybe it's helped a little with retail investors. I mean, I think retail investors might see the things that we're doing and realize, we give a crap. I do a daily newsletter. We chock that full of stuff. I do a podcast. I mean, I'm trying to give people information. And I don't hawk my ETFs in my newsletter. I don't hawk them on my podcast. I'm trying to educate. And I think there probably are some people who see that and appreciate it.
Definitely. What ETF category is most overhyped right now, in your opinion?
So it's the covered call stuff, which is why we've come at it differently. I mean, I'm an options guy. And back when I started investing, covered calls were something that old people did. And now I'm an old person, but the idea was you'd buy a stodgy stock that paid a dividend that wasn't going to move up a lot, and you'd write a call against it. Brilliant. Great idea. No problem. Buy Procter and Gamble, McDonald's and Pepsi and write calls. I think that's fine. Then you started seeing people doing it on like MicroStrategy and, in NVIDIA and in Palantir and all these volatile stocks. And like, that makes absolutely no sense. So you're selling a call on a stock that, may 10X. You're giving up a lot of your upside because anything over the call strike price, you don't participate in, and you still have unlimited downside. So going back to the heat formula, that's not an asymmetrical trade. That's limited upside, unlimited downside on a stock that you think is going to go up. So, I mean, I've just always thought that was stupid. We've come at it two different ways. Instead of selling calls, we're selling puts. So the upside is still there. And then when we are selling calls, we're doing them 0DT, same day. So I can sit there and wait and say, all right, it's 11 o'clock. IBIT went up. Now it looks like it's curling down. I'm going to sell a call here. And all right, I have a nice little profit. It's 2 o'clock. I'm going to cover. Then, I'm unencumbered for overnight and weekend gains. Obviously, my timing on Bitcoin, depending on how you look at it, was either awful or great. I think the time to buy Bitcoin is now, not at 120. But we'll see how that all plays out.
So the opposite of my previous question. So what do you think is the most underappreciated trend in ETFs right now?
I think what I would love to see is thematic ETFs that don't suck. People are just putting these things out and, investors going to buy them just because, hey, I want access to this theme. But when you look at the portfolio, it's like, this stinks. What I'm really excited about is tail risk. Nobody on the ETF side has been able to do tail risk and do it right. We've figured that out, or at least I hope we figured that out. And, at the end of the day, I think our, Ono could be our most consequential ETF we've ever done.
What's your boldest prediction for the ETF industry over the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
So I think that, and we've got a dog in this fight, I think 3X and maybe more is going to be approved in some way, shape, or form. It's like the Bitcoin ETF. I mean, there was so much pressure there that it happened eventually. And I think 3X will happen eventually. I think the most interesting area in ETF development is going to be around crypto. There's going to be so much stuff going on in crypto, and cool for me. We're not going to be pushing it, but we're going to be involved in a lot of these projects as a sub-advisor. So I'm kind of excited to see how that plays out, because I think there is a fertile landscape. Do we need another tech stock ETF? No. But there's room for innovation in crypto.
You mentioned earlier about plans to write a book this year. What's the book going to be about?
So the book is about the heat formula, and it's basically done. It's going through some kind of last editing, and I don't know how long all this stuff takes, but certainly it's going to be out this year.
How do you get the time to write a book as well as running a business?
I was working on it all last year.
Right.
So it was, and again, that's part of being an entrepreneur. I don't work 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. Anyone who gets my daily newsletter, you may have noticed there are some days you get it at 4 a.m. And no, I did not set it up to send, the night before to send to you at 4 a.m. I'm sitting here at 4 a.m. I'm writing it.
I know, like a newsletter, having one myself, it's a big commitment. So you doing it, I've got a weekly one, you're doing one daily. It's a hell of a commitment, especially like being consistent with it, right? Doing it every single day is
so. And I'm not entirely altruistic. My selfish reason is I'm an investor too. Yeah, and I think too that's an advantage for us in dealing with retail investors. Is I'm one of you. I'm actively trading my own portfolio. Now, I don't have time to do that like I used to. So I have more. And the cool thing about the heat formula is you can use it as a template for day trading, swing trading, or long-term buy and hold. I've had to go to long-term buy and hold. I don't want to. I love trading. That I don't have the time for, and I can't justify, hey, I'm going to let business stuff slide so, I can be day trading NVIDIA. I mean, that I'm not going to do. But what writing the newsletter does is it forces me to be constantly in tune with what's going on, which helps my own investments. So a lot of times I'll start doing research and I'll come upon a stock or an area or a theme, and I'll invest in it myself.
Last question from me. If someone were to come along tomorrow and say, oh, here's $1 billion, Matt, walk away, disappear, what would you do with your life if you weren't involved in this industry?
I would figure out, I'm not gonna quit and go play golf. I enjoy it, but not, or maybe once a week. I would do something and something related to this business. I have no intention of selling, but I mean, everyone's got a price. If someone comes to me with $1 billion, all right, I'm selling. I mean, I'm not turning that down. I would have to do something. I can't imagine doing the traditional retirement like my grandfather did, where you retire at 60 whatever and you're playing golf every day.
You don't see yourself retiring?
No, I definitely do not see myself retiring.
No, I can understand that. Cool. Well, I wish you the very best of luck with it all, Matt, and yeah, I hope you never do retire. So
I don't plan to. So we'll be around. So we'll do this every 5 years.
Sounds like a plan. All right, thanks, Matt.
All right, thank you for having me.